So thank you, Cloud Security Alliance, for the invitation to speak at this event. My name is Joshua Magri, and I'm the Chief Executive Officer of the Cyber Risk Institute, a not-for-profit organization comprised of a series of financial institutions and trade associations in the financial services space. And I've been asked to speak about our relationship that we have with the Cloud Security Alliance, which I'm very happy to do. What we'll be doing is really providing a case study in standards and trust, and that trust building between financial services and the cloud industry, as well as a preview to some exciting new and free products that you'll see coming out in the next quarter or so. But first, what I'd like to do is start with a quotation. So this is a quotation from the Hopi. One finger cannot lift a pedal. And really, at its core, what we're talking about is we can't go it alone. You have to work together. You have to have a common understanding and common goals. You have to have trust in one another. And our story begins really with us coming together, me in particular, as well as an executive from a cloud service provider at a diner in Northern Virginia. And we essentially were coming together because financial services had some issues with respect to cloud. Many firms were starting on their journey of cloud implementation and adoption. And this was back in 2017. And the benefits for cloud implementation were really readily apparent. Many of the financial services institutions wanted to migrate from legacy IT systems. The cloud had promise for increased security and resilience. There was a promise of overall costs. Also, it enabled financial institutions to develop and scale applications that were faster and faster to market, as well as the ability to add various features that could work not only with the software of their particular financial institution, but across various other platforms as well. But here were some of the challenges. There was increased regulation and scrutiny on third parties within the financial services space. The regulators were quite clear that functions could be outsourced, but that the risks could not. And most fundamentally, I think one of the issues and what brought us that diner today was that there was, I guess, misunderstandings in terms of security and operating environments, and there was a perceived lack of transparency. And financial institutions struggled with the compliance-ready documentation provided or not provided by cloud service providers. So in this conversation with the cloud security executive, we talked about what we could do moving forward. And because he was a friend and a colleague, he said, you know, Josh, the struggle that we have is that financial institutions will tend to ask us to add certain security features in dribs and drabs. And it's kind of like a back of the napkin request. And if we don't have a full understanding as to why the firms are asking that question, and if it doesn't comport with our long-term strategies, we just can't do it. So we resolved to think about how best to tackle this problem, this jigsaw puzzle. And one of the things that I told this particular executive was that many of the requests that we were getting or putting forth were ones based on regulation. Financial services is a heavily regulated sector. And so luckily, we had an idea. We had been struggling in financial services with the slew of regulatory expectations around cyber, and we had determined that we should be putting together a more universal cyber assessment based on the NIST cybersecurity framework, but extended to be more inclusive of items around governance and third party, and also to be a bit more diagnostic. And ultimately, through our sector coordinating council, the Financial Services Sector Coordinating Council, we released something called the Profile version 1.0. In its wake, after its release in 2018, the Cyber Risk Institute was stood up as an independent organization within the Bank Policy Institute. And we had started to think through, okay, we've put this product out, is it something that we can extend to the cloud environment? And we worked with Boston Consulting Group, and they informed us that a client of theirs had actually done something where they had asked Boston Consulting Group to put together the profile, which was a financial services related assessment for cyber compliance, and the Cloud Security Alliance's cloud controls matrix. And so from that, we decided, it would be good if we all put our heads together. And so with a call over to the Cloud Security Alliance, we began what amounted to a multi-stakeholder process wherein we took that initial work by Boston Consulting Group. We brought in the financial institutions and the major cloud service providers, as well as the trade associations and financial services. And we extended the profile, which is the extension of NIST cybersecurity framework, into another extension for cloud. And we called this the cloud profile. And the cloud profile is, in essence, a mutually beneficial framework for assessing security responsibilities and cyber risk through collaboration and consensus between cloud service providers and financial institutions. What it did, as I mentioned before, is integrated the control objectives of the CRI profile with the more granular control objectives that you find in the cloud control matrix. What this enabled us to do was show where cloud controls matched up against the cyber compliance environment within financial services. What it looked like was something akin to this, where you had a architecture that was very much NIST-based, with functions, categories, subcategories, extended with diagnostic statements and referencing various regulations, but with the added addition of the Cloud Security Alliance cloud control matrix mappings. And then this is really what was novel for that cloud profile at the time, was a responsibility matrix added on, wherein each control was adjudicated by the group of cloud service providers, financial institutions, and the trades to say, is this control something that is the responsibility of the financial institution, or is it the cloud service provider, or is it a shared one? And we started to develop out also the typology of the types of controls and the implementation phases from which you would see them. And we put this out in 2022, and it was none too soon, because within the financial services space, there was an increasing regulatory scrutiny of financial institution third parties, and particularly cloud. And what this cloud profile version 1 allowed us to do was address the following use cases. We were able to essentially provide firms with a checklist for procurement discussions. We had a standard template that you could utilize for contracting language. This also provided a universal language that technical staff could utilize and really have a discussion up through to the board. it provided a sense of which controls map to which compliance areas. And it was all done in terminology that was familiar to all industries. It was in the organizational taxonomy and language of the NIST cybersecurity framework. Well, this release received the attention of the US Department of Treasury. And they were tasked with putting together a report by order of the Biden administration on the financial services sector's adoption of cloud services. And in that document that they released in early 2023, they called out the challenges of cloud implementation that we discussed before, as well as those benefits. And what was really interesting is they put forth a set of next steps, which referenced not only the cloud profile and the work that we did with the Cloud Security Alliance via the Cyber Risk Institute, but essentially called for that work to be updated so that it could be a bit more accessible to firms of all shapes and sizes within the financial services industry. And what they proposed was a structure that utilized our sector coordinating council, as well as the government coordinating council, which in financial services is known as the Financial and Banking Information Infrastructure Committee. And they asked us, along with the FISIC, asked us to lead a work stream where we updated the cloud profile. And of course, our first call was back to the Cloud Security Alliance and the CSPs that we had developed a trust with, and that we had developed the first one with. And we put together a work plan wherein we would deliver a cloud profile version 2. And in it, it would include updates of the various control objectives mapped to the NIST cybersecurity framework version 2, which had recently come up, as well as the profile version 2, which incorporated many of those NIST CSF changes. We also put together a more robust template that allowed for assessment responses and scoped out a more accessible methodology for discussing shared responsibilities and responsibilities for the various control objective implementation. And we made sure that this was something that would not only link to the NIST CSF and the profile version 2.0, but also to the European Cloud User Coalition and the United Kingdom's cross-market operational resilience group. And ultimately, that it would link to the Cloud Security Alliance guidance, which will be coming out later this year. The second deliverable was the development of a workbook, which essentially tied a lot of these things together and provided a how-to guide for various firms. And so we are going to show you some of that work right now. So as mentioned, Cloud Profile version 2.0, we developed that work plan and we got to work. We started updating the mapping to the NIST Cybersecurity Framework version 2.0 and how that flowed through to the Cloud Security Alliance Cloud Control Matrix. We did reverse mappings as well. We added new mappings to other cloud frameworks, as mentioned, including the UK's Cross-Market Operational Resilience Group and the European Cloud User Coalition's Cloud Framework. We added an area for self-assessment responses that you could essentially roll up and review internally within your particular financial institution. The shared responsibility implementation tool also underwent a change. One of the things that we had noticed from the first version was that although we had said, this control would be the responsibility of of a cloud service provider or a financial institution or shared, uh, particularly with the shared ones, there was often a baton pass in terms of a particular control and the control responsibilities. So together in this working group environment, we developed out what were the typical baton pass responsibilities. So if you were a financial institution, typically you would do the following things. And then if you were a cloud service provider, you would do these particular things. But we also know that with respect to cloud and cloud deployment and cloud implementation, that what's a typical control implementation doesn't necessarily mean that it's the actual implementation, that there is actually a contract negotiation that occurs between a financial institution and a cloud service provider. So we provided a template matrix that accounted for this, that essentially showed what was typical next to a blank space where the financial institution could put in what they were actually doing, and the cloud service provider could put in what they were actually doing. And we furthered it up by giving examples of evidence that firms could ask for from the cloud service provider and could provide on their own to show that the control was implemented. The workbook it was a workbook that essentially brought all this together and highlighted not only the particular control objective within the cloud profile, but also the commensurate controls with CSA, with the Cross-Market Operational Resilience Group, and the European Cloud User Coalition. And why this is important is that this particular piece really provides a platform and a jump off for what you will all be seeing from CSA in the near future, which is a set of more detailed implementation guidelines that largely track the more summary ones that you'll find within the cloud workbook. What's really special about this, and what I want to make sure to highlight, is that this wouldn't have been able to come together without working together, without the collaboration, without building that trust between the standards development organizations within financial services and within the cloud services, namely between Cyber Risk Institute and the Cloud Security Alliance. This cloud profile is now currently under final review by the various agencies within our Government Coordinating Council, of which Treasury is a part. Others include the banking agencies and the market agencies. And we are expecting publication to be somewhat contemporaneous with the implementation guidelines that we mentioned and that we reference within the guidebook. But in closing, one of the things that I do want to mention and discuss is the fact that why this is important, why standardization is important, why working together is important. So this particular slide shows a fire hydrant and a hose. About 120 years ago, there was a fire in Baltimore that raged for over 2 days. Over 1,500 buildings came down. And it wasn't due to a lack of personnel to fight the fire. In fact, they had personnel coming from as far away as New York City and the Carolinas, DC, etc. But many of the firemen were forced to stand and watch Baltimore essentially burn because there hadn't been standardization around the couplings between hydrants and hoses. So many of the fire departments came with hoses that just really could not hook up to the Baltimore fire hydrants. In the wake of that, that was really when there had begun to be a push for standardization of these types of things at the national level. And in fact, again, NIST, the National Institutes of Standards and Technology, along with the fire prevention associations, led the charge to devise a more universal and standardized hookup. So why is that? How does that apply today? Well, we're at an inflection point as it relates to cybersecurity and cloud and a variety of emergent technologies. And what we are all building towards is trying to prevent a digital catastrophe because of a lack of standardization. And so it really is with pride that we are announcing and providing an overview of the history of the work that the financial services sector has done with the cloud service provider and the products that we anticipate coming out in the next few weeks. Uh, for for more information on this and for free downloads, feel free to go to either one of our websites. And I want to thank you for being with me today and asking me to present on this case study. Thank you.